On December 26, 1973, in 24 selected engagements in the United States, William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin, opened. From the novel that had long been on the bestseller lists and directed by the man who had brought the French Connection to the screen, The Exorcist had long been awaited, widely speculated upon, and anxiously anticipated. But no one, no matter how close or deeply involved in the film, could possibly have anticipated what was to happen at every theater where this film played.
Hello everybody, I'm Cassidy, I'm the HippieCatholic. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe to be part of the conversation. All month of October, I'm going to be talking all about all things Halloween, all things paranormal, all things spiritual, all things, horror, and how it relates to Catholicism. So if that sounds like stuff that you'd be interested in, please stick around. The Exorcist. The scariest movie of all time, the movie that scarred a generation, filled church pews, and changed the horror genre forever. Something unique about The Exorcist is that it portrays the Catholic Church as the heroes of the story, which is contrary to the widespread anti-Catholic sentiments within the film industry at large, a sentiment that continues today. In today's video, we will not only be diving into this horror classic, but we'll also be diving into the cultural response it elicited from the public, from the time of the movie's release until now. So, keep watching, fam. I was really excited to make this video because it combines three of my favorite things: the 1960s and 70s, horror, and Catholicism. It's a good cocktail up in here. I love it. Let's begin. The film focuses on Regan, a 12-year-old possessed by an evil spirit, which is alluded as being an Assyrian deity. After playing with a Ouija board, her atheistic mother struggles to help her daughter after the girl's dramatic change in behavior. So Father Damien, a priest struggling to maintain his faith, must battle the demon to save the girl. The movie was set apart by unapologetically portraying the church as the protagonist. It also made the horror genre respectable again. Major Hollywood producers saw how lucrative the horror genre could be and began reinvesting into the genre. The trend itself started at the end of the 1950s, but the crowning jewel of the new golden age was The Exorcist, though other films of the era were considered successful as well, including films such as Rosemary's Baby, along with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and The Birds. I had this really awesome, eccentric elementary school art teacher, and she used to always talk about how she met the leading lady in The Birds, and she had this picture of her and the actress who played the leading lady role in The Birds all over the place in her room. And I remember she even played really gory clips from The Birds. And I didn't question it because I was in 3rd grade, but at the same time, I was in 3rd grade. There was some stuff I shouldn't have been watching in school. I still find it endearing, so anyway, side tangent over. The marketing of The Exorcist also contributed to its cultural impact. Publicity stories leading up to the release had suggested that The Exorcist was more than just a motion picture. Somehow the film itself was haunted and possessed. It also didn't help that a now forgotten comet called the Doomsday Comet appeared at exactly the same time as the movie's December release date, like a sort of anti-Star of Bethlehem. According to the New York Times, 1973 was the most lucrative year of the decade for cinema. If you adjusted the number for inflation, it would make The Exorcist into a $983 million earner. Horror had returned to a place of prominence on the big screen, and it's been there ever since. So something you guys should know about me, I'm really into film. I'm a writer. I try to write in a variety of mediums, and screenplay writing is just really fascinating to me. I've heard the term Catholic in reference to a film be used as an insult, but I'd say that in this case, a Catholic-rooted film revived the horror genre, utilizing one of the most well-written screenplays I've ever encountered. So if anyone calls your script Catholic and means it as an insult, take it as a compliment. If you want to read the full screenplay of The Exorcist, I highly recommend it for anybody who's interested in films. If you're interested in screenwriting or just in anything, just if you like to read read it. Something else I have to say about The Exorcist is that while it's clearly a horror classic, which is a subversive genre within itself, The Exorcist also aligns with a classic story structure that we might not expect in a scary movie. The hero's journey. The hero's journey is the epic story structure dictated by the renowned mythologist Joseph Campbell, who was influenced by the spirituality and archetypal wisdom of Carl Jung, one of the key figures who's founded the study of psychology along with Sigmund Freud. We don't talk about Freud. The hero's journey is purported to be a story structure which spans across human storytelling, even going as far back as stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh. Why does this matter to The Exorcist? Well, if you watch the movie, that's kind of shady, but if you watch the movie, you will notice that it very much has a hero, Father Damien. Although he initially refuses the call to action, he eventually consents, for he knows that it is the right thing for him to do. Father Damien is a man whose faith is tested and he passes, though he ends up giving his life to save Reagan's. This is fitting, for a priest's role in the church is to be a stand-in for Christ within the context of the Mass, transforming the Eucharist into the true body and blood of Christ, which had been poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. And if you believe in Christianity, you believe that Jesus sacrificed himself to save us from the grasps of oppressive evil. I think that The Exorcist had such an impact on audiences for a myriad of reasons, but one of them is that I believe that we can relate to the character of Reagan in an archetypal sense. In a way, all human beings are just children trying to navigate a really, really complex world that's bent on oppressing them. We see transformations take place, some good, some not so good. By seeing Reagan tormented and oppressed by an evil force that she can't fight, we can be reminded of the evil in our own lives that we often feel we cannot face. Something that I've always found interesting about Christianity is how it coincides with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and how in Christ's redemption of humanity, we now have our freedom again. It was Christ's sacrifice which released us from the claws of our oppressors. The film parallels this by portraying Father Damien as a sacrificial figure who, by his sacrifice, redeems Reagan. And it makes me wonder what will happen to Reagan after all of this. How will she live her life knowing that someone gave theirs for hers? How will she perceive the world after that? Where do we go from here? I'd like to think that she'll go on her own heroine's journey, which is a bit different than the hero's journey because Joseph Campbell is sexist, but that's for another video. I like to think that Reagan will become a demon-fighting anarchist, but that might be a bit of a stretch. The Exorcist film was fictionalized, but it was based off of a real-life event with completely different details. I'll put a link to the documentary telling the true story of The Exorcist in the description box below because it's just a really, really great documentary. I guess it's one of those cases where truth is more intriguing than fiction. So, in the real story, the possessed individual was a boy. This boy is still alive today, and though he remains anonymous, it's known that he lives a private and peaceful life as a scientist. I understand why he'd want to keep his identity secret because I'm sure he doesn't want his reputation as being the Exorcist kid to affect his scientific research and stuff or affect his credibility. But according to him, he does not remember much of that period of his life anyway, so it's probably for the best that he avoids the limelight. But still, it also has to be said that the priest who exorcised the boy swore all his life that what he witnessed in that exorcism was the real thing. There's so much mystique around The Exorcist as it's recognized as the scariest movie of all time, and while others have contested that claim, culturally, The Exorcist still holds the crown. I think it's an amazing film because it asks us to examine the shadow aspect of the psyche. It asks us to stand strong in what we know to be good in the face of evil. I think that it's a very, very strong universal message that you can take away from that film if you're not scared shitless. The Exorcist also provides an outlet for unpleasant emotions, which often build up in uncertain times. The longing for the age of Aquarius and the hippie movements were not the only cultural responses the media had to political corruption and the real-life horror of the Vietnam War. Horror continues to be an outlet. 2017 was the most successful year for the horror genre ever, thanks largely to Jordan Peele's Get Out, a film that commented on the horror of racism within white liberals in America. It's absolutely imperative for horror to be relevant. True horror is the existential forces that seek to control our lives. Within every horror film is an uneasy energy of societal tension which hangs in every scene like a ghost. If we are to rise above the world, we must face that which we fear. For within each of us is a soul seeking to be delivered from evil. I also was approved to have a Patreon account, so if you're financially able, please consider supporting me there. As I am a small creator, I am currently not monetized, so any donation would be immensely appreciated but never required. Thank you so much to my lovely patrons for supporting me through this journey on this channel, and I love just seeing this community grow here. Stay tuned for more Halloween-related videos all throughout the month of October. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I am Cassidy. I'm the Hippie Catholic. God bless and be spooky.